Hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for today's lecture. Today we are going to look into the eCTD submission tools and software. So what are we going to look at today? We are going to look into best practices in assembling documents, looking into submission of documents. Then we are going to go over a few softwares that we use for the submission of the eCTDs. But again, there are hundreds of softwares now, but I just selected a few, and of course I'm going to compare a few of those as well. Now, what are the eCTD submission tools? As we assign roles and responsibilities and eCTD process, eCTD submissions require a number of human and electronic resources and the process for creation and finalizing of documents and data sets that is iterative. It means that we will have to go over several forms. We may have some standard operating procedures with templates helping us to use the exact template that everyone uses in the company for preparing specific regulatory documents. Then we will need to review them. We call that to QC them or to control their quality. And then as an iteration, we are going to continue with the same system where we are going to look into the job, looking into the forms, regulations, guidelines necessary for preparing a specific document. Then we are going to use the templates, looking into work instructions, using the templates of the company to prepare those documents. Then we review them, we proofread them, we do the quality control, and then we are going to add them one per one into our eCTD backbone. So now you understand that we are going to deal with about 100 to 160,000 pages sometimes of documents. And again, all of those documents are going to be added into specific submodules in each module, modules 1 through module 5 of the eCTD. So we have several tools in order to, first of all, to prepare those documents, to check those documents, to convert those documents to PDF, obviously, and adding bookmarks, but then to add those documents into the eCTD structure that we call the eCTD backbone. And here, of course, sometimes we just do the drag and drop, but don't forget that it's not just a matter of dragging and dropping files from our desktops to the eCTD builders or eCTD software. That's because each company also needs to have an electronic document management system. We have a document called, which is a software that is called EDMS, it's Electronic Document Management System, but we do have other softwares that also allow us to manage our electronically made documents. Why we need those EDMSs? That's because we do have several drafts, several versions of a document. Now imagine you have 10 documents and you have 10 drafts for each of those. You would like to be able to go back and to see what has been changed, because maybe your draft number 3 had some information that you did skip in draft number 10. So we need to what we call having an audit trail, or we need to have some traceability, meaning that we will need to have a copy of each and every version of the same document that we have been working on over time. And then we would like to be able to go back in the same document, but with the previous version, because some changes have been made, some additions have not been made at that time. So this audit trail allows us to always be able to keep all of the information and then not to lose anything. So we need those softwares to allow us first to have to act as a repository, a safe repository, so that we can add information and documents, so that we can also update or change those documents or update those documents, and then to be able to go back in the previous versions of a document as well, in an environment where we can set the security for the files. We can also set different types of access to different users in different departments. Now, eCTD is connected to the EDMS. So when we are having our files in the EDMS, this is a controlled environment, And now we'll be able to, if you want, drag and drop or choose documents in our electronic document management system to add them into the into the eCTD backbone. So the different modules, 1 to 5, or different sub-modules. Now, let's go over the tools in the process. Okay, when we are writing documents, we have document authorship. We have SOPs, those standard operating procedures. They give us templates at the end in an annex, allowing us to do exactly, again, writing documents exactly in a way that other documents are written for a specific document. So we call those templates. A template in any company has its own format, I would say text font, indentations, I would say even if the way that we are writing that, maybe even the indentations as well. So we have to follow closely all of the templates used in a company. This is part of the quality management system as well. We also need to have a secure network drive. Now you may say that now over the internet we may sometimes have some issues with hackers. Yes, of course. But many companies, they have an internet and an intranet, meaning that they are sharing some documents or information that can be shared through internet. And of course, knowing that there are always risks, but we limit the risk because we also have benefits sharing that information with, people or audience on the internet. But we also have company intranet where we have all of our servers. They are all connected to different terminals, and they may also be, of course, connected to some cloud-based repositories, again owned by the company as well, but secured. And this is again a network drive that we have. So we have intranet and internets. We also have Word and Adobe plugins. These are plugins that are connected. These are mini softwares or softwares that they have specific functions. For example, for Adobe, they allow you to create a form, or on Adobe, for example, it allows you to convert a Word document to, again, not just a Word, but any type of document, to PDF. So these are all plugins that are connected and configured within your writing software like Microsoft Word. We also have quality control and quality assurance. So here again, we look into the secure network drive. Obviously, we do have different security protocols. You have your user ID and password. Obviously, you have to change them every month or every 2 months. Many companies, they have tokens where the token is going to change its number. Same thing I can tell you for me as well. For example, when I'm in different organizations, I do have several even authenticators like Microsoft authenticators, where I do have some numbers. So we also have two key factors or two-factor authentications. These are key factors of authentication, such as my cell phone number, but also my face, or my cell phone number and a password that I remember, or my cell phone number and the number that is being sent to my authenticator's application on my cell phone. So here, this is quality assurance. We also have our electronic document management system that I already talked about. So this is a repository that must be secured. It must allow us to set user ID and passwords. It must be backed up, because if there's any issue with, with any accident that may happen, we don't want to lose the data. And we have also the audit trail, meaning that we are able to go back in time and look into each and every version of a document that has been saved all along, the pathway from the time we start a document from scratch down or up to the time when we are going to use the document as a final version for a specific time. Because as we know, for example, for a product monograph, we update it 4 or 5 times per year. So each time that we update a product monograph, we or of course for FDA, this we call that product label, but I was giving using the term product monograph for Health Canada. For the product monograph, for example, again, we will submit that today, but we are going to have some safety data, some additional data. So we are going to update that product monograph in 2 or 3 months, and then we will have to resubmit it as well. So we do have the same file called product monograph. However, its version will change, its date will change, its content will change. However, on our electronic document management system, we will have 20 product monographs, all having the same name, but with different dates of saving. And we can always go back in time to look into what are the other versions, what have been the changes. We also have the opportunity to set, again, security, of course, and to not to give to everyone access to all of the files. So we can select who is going to be able to read and write, or to read and write and delete. So not everyone can delete those files. And this is another particular, I would say, requirement for the electronic document management systems. Now we also have the document finalization, publishing, validation, and submission of our eCTD through the internet protocols. We are going to see in a few slides that we are going to look into the electronic gateway, which is maintained by FDA. And the gateway has different plugins. It can be connected through internet protocols to different eCTD builders or tools, so that you can easily open your desktop or laptop in your company. You can access your files in your EDMS application. You can now work on the files, and then to select which of those regulatory files are going to be added into which submodule in your eCTD software. And then once the eCTD software did compile your CTD into eCTD or electronic command technical document, then that software can also submit directly your submission to FDA electronic submission gateway. And the same thing applies to EMA as well. And here this is done through B2B or business to business links or internet protocols. So now when we talk about the finalization, publishing, validation, and submission of the documents, here we talk again about EDMS. That's because even if you show that a document that you selected from your EDMS in your eCTD builder, still the document is connected. So there's a link to that document from your eCTD builder. And then once we will compile our eCTD, then that document is going to be retrieved or copied from EDMS, and it will now be found in your, again, your new drug submission, for example, new drug application in eCTD format. This is why, as you see, EDMS is also, again, is one of the backbones of this process. And again, we can talk about the security of the network. Obviously, at any level, we need to have different security protocols and password protected applications as well. We also have now softwares that we call eCTD validators. These are softwares that will look into the structure of your CTD. They will then look into all of the, obviously, existence of different folders or modules and submodules, and then they are going now to look into or creating a list of all of the files that exist within each submodule, and it will then look into the XML file that has been prepared by the eCTD builder. It will now check the XML file against, or the list or the index against the physical, or say the electronic content of the eCTD, and then it's going to say, yes, this XML is validated. It is showing the exact index of your eCTD. You also have eCTD viewers. These are XML viewers. You have also this function in Microsoft Word, but you have applications, so software, that have this ability. So you're going to open the software, you open now, or you import your eCTD, and then it's going to open the eCTD. You're going to be able to see each and every module, all of the submodules, and all of the documents that exist in each submodule, so that it's going to allow you to see which files are in which submodule. Now talking about the plugins, okay, these are software extensions that help eCTD submission authors to ensure Word documents are properly formatted to ease the process of conversion to eCTD compliant. We also have templates that are already talked about. These are pre-formatted documents that contain the ICH compliant headers, formatting, etc. for various written sections of the eCTD submissions. Now, I also talk about EDMS. This is an electronic document management system. It provides an environment and process for control of documents that will be submitted as part of the eCTD. Now, usually this is owned by the Quality Assurance Department, but this is being used by several departments, and in each department we do have a user that we call a super user. The super user is a subject matter expert who knows, again, the necessity of sharing specific documents with specific people with different jobs in the company. So those super users, they set different attributes. They set different authorization for users in their departments to be able to read a document, read and write a document, or read and write and delete a document. I tell you again that we don't delete from EDMS. We have to keep all of those files within. If there is any deletion necessary, we need to have a standard operating procedure in order to explain and give the reason why we are deleting a file. This is because we have the audit trail, meaning that we use EDMSs because we are able to go back in time and look into different versions or old versions of each regulatory file. If we delete a file, we are deleting or destroying the audit trail. So we need to explain why we did destroy or delete one of the, documents which was in the audit trail. But still, this type of, distribution of responsibilities and authorizations is, again, depending on the judgment, of course, and the knowledge of the super user in each department. Now let's talk about the eCTD validation tool. So this is to look into the validation. So it's going to look into whether or not we have a proper formatting of the XML backbone, looking into the folder hierarchy based on the ICH M4. As we already looked into that, ICH M4, you can find that on ich.org website. You go to the section M for multidisciplinary. Then you search for ICH M4, which is giving us all the standard that we use for preparation of different also the structure of different folders and subfolders in the CTD format, but we call that a CTD backbone, and those folders and subfolders, we call them modules and submodules. Of course, we also have other jargons that we already also went over those, like for example leaflets. These are representing the regulatory documents that we add into each submodule, based on the definitions and requirements of ICH M4. So the validation tools for eCTD, what they do is that they're going to make sure that our CTD or eCTD here, the eCTD has all of the required folders or submodules, and they are also named based on the guidelines documents. We also have eCTD viewers. So what they do is that you will import your eCTD to eCTD viewer tool. Again, we have hundreds of those. And then when you import your entire document and your CTD backbone, it will read the XML file, because the XML file that comes with you within your eCTD has the index, has the list or the table of contents of your module 1 through 5. So this is again an example of what you can see. You also have the software that is written here. You can obviously look into what document is in which submodule and module based on what your eCTD viewer was able to open and read and display using the XML file, or we call that index.xml, that comes with your eCTD folder. So if you look at your eCTD folder, you're going to have M1, module 1, M2, module 2, module 3, 4, and 5. These are all modules or folders. You also have a folder for DTD, which is for, again, all of the configurations of the settings for displaying or for creating different structures within those modules. And then you also have a file which is index.xml. So the index.xml is the one that is the file that is going to be read by eCTD viewer, and based on that it will show us the exact structure and the exact content of our eCTD. Now let's talk about the eCTD software. It's a critical tool for submission success. Now here we are looking into the life cycle management. You do have 4 main phases. So on the left side you have the discovery phase, where we are going to have information about the new drug discovered. Then we have an investigational phase, where we look into, obviously, again, phase 1 and phase 2 and phase 3. And of course, this is following the animal testing, which is in discovery phase. Now, in each and every of these phases, we are collecting information. We are documenting the information and the studies, and we are going to add those information into what we call an electronic document management system. So from the very beginning, I would say over sometimes from 8 years to 17 to 19 years, time that we need usually for making a drug. So from, again, maybe 4 or 5 years, I would say, to 18, 19 years, we are going to collect the information, create different documents, and we are going to put them into our electronic document management system, and then you are going to be able to use the information in order to prepare regulatory documents that we are going then to add into different submodules in our eCTD. So when you see this here, you can now see that we have, again, continuing with the investigational phase, we go to the review of the application. So we have the application review phase, which is done by FDA in this, as it is shown in this slide. Don't forget that if you are in European Union, the agency is European Medicinal Agency. If you go to Canada and you would like to can put your drug on the Canadian market, you will have to work with Health Canada. So after that, we also have another phase, which is the last one, the 4th one, which is the post-market surveillance phase, where we are having a drug on the market, but we are still, again, exploring, because we don't know what would be the adverse drug reactions, or the new ones, or any drug-drug interactions. Things that we did not check or test, we couldn't test during the animal phase, or I would say in the investigational phase in humans. So in order to use all of these different types of information, we do have the standards that FDA, for example, since we're with the FDA in this slide, is asking us. And again, where you can find those standards by going to FDA website and looking into different information. One of them is about the eCTD, or electronic command technical document. One of them is about SEND, which is standard for exchange of non-clinical data. Another standard is ICSR, individual case safety report. Another one is, again, unique ingredient identifiers, or UNI. You have SPL, or structured product labeling. The SDTM, study data tabulation model. You have the National Drug Code, or NDC, and you have the pharmaceutical quality / chemistry, manufacturing and control which is a guidance. So this is PQ, sorry, CMC. So they are all different data standards. And we use those standards when we start from the discovery phase on the left side of the slide, until the time that the product is on the market. So through the product life cycle. Now, obviously, the eCTD software is a big business. It is expanding. We are asking more and more. In Canada, as I remember, that was in year 2000, where Mr. Bob Capitani again met with all of the companies, including me, and we have been about 400 people in a room talking with, again, Health Canada representatives, and that was the first time that they, in year 2000, where they started to talk about the eCTD. But from that time until now, it did take some time for many companies to adjust their infrastructure, to train people, but obviously to have also to understand, of course, this effort of harmonization, and to also Health Canada that allowed all of the companies to start gradually to implement that. So in year 2005, we could still, for example, submit our new drug submission in Canada by, I would say, not through the eCTD. But then in year 2020, it became mandatory. But again, we still, for example, have this clinical trial applications where if it is done by healthcare providers and smaller companies, they can still use the same eCTD format, but they are not going to submit that through the eCTD software. So still, this is, I would say, a business that is growing. The demand is there because we need harmonization. But again, you still don't have, again, all of the smaller, I would say, countries still working on eCTD. Okay, but for the big countries, obviously, for the majority of them, they're all now asking for eCTD. But again, it depends on what. So if this is for the new drug application, yes, definitely you need to go through the eCTD. If this is through the new drug investigational new drug application, the same thing you need. If this is for the drug master file, obviously you will need to go through the eCTD. However, for the reporting of adverse drug reactions, so anything relating with pharmacovigilance, we are still working on that. And we are expecting to also be able to submit I would say, the pharmacovigilance reports through the eCTD backbone. So this is a growing business. This is in evolution, but we are going toward that direction, is to have a harmonized way to work together in between countries. Now, you may now say, okay, what you need in your software. As I already mentioned again a few slides ago, we need a place and environment where this is safe, it's secure. You can also give access to specific people. We don't need everyone to have access to the trade secrets, for example, of our companies, and we don't give them access. But we still have people who have access to those as well. We need also to have an audit trail. This is as per the regulations in any country, where we need to be able to go back in time and access all of the documents that we have been working on from the time when we started even our research and development down to up to the time where the product is on the market, so through the product life cycle. Now we also need to have a place, again, a secure environment where we can have multiple authors or reviewers who will be able to work. Of course, we don't use Google documents. We use internal documents. As I already mentioned, we have in any company intranets as well. This is a network which is internal. It's not connected to internet. It may, but not for all of the functions. So there are different ports. Some ports on their servers are open, some they are closed. So many internet users cannot access the in-company intranet unless this is configured in advance for specific functions. We also need to control documents, so templates, fonts, headings, margins, etc. This is where we give templates to employees. Now, what happens is that employees are not going to Again, in EDMS, for example, if you want to create a document, you're not going to choose from another repository a template. No, you will go to EDMS and you say open new document. Then the system tells you what you want to open. Would you like to, is it a new SOP? Is it a new monograph? Is it a new product label? Is it a new what? And when you're going to choose what is, again, the document that you would like to prepare, it will open automatically a company template which is empty, but it has all of the structure for the font, headings, indentations, etc. So you're going to fill out that template. Once you save that template, you give a name to that document, and you are going to save it in a specific place in your EDMS. So it is controlled, it is secured, it is safe, and obviously it keeps the audit trail, it keeps the history of that file. Even if you go to Microsoft Windows, you can also have a function which is called file history, and you can activate it. What it does is the same thing than an audit trail. It means that for any file, you can hover your mouse on the file, right click, and then you will find a window where you can find the file history. You can activate the file history for that specific file that you have on your computer. So here the same thing, we need to have access to those. So now when we also talk about the control of access documents, this control is done by a super user, usually one or sometimes two, but usually one person in each department who is going to give access, different types of access to different, again, staff or different positions, titles within a department. Now, we also have, of course, the structure of the dossier. So here, these are the technical specifications of an XML, but don't forget that when you are in the eCTD builder or tools, you don't need to create each and every submodule. This is a template as well. So when you have a template, this is already created, and then once it's created, now you're going to start adding different regulatory files into different submodules. And this can be done by drag and drop, or if not, you can just, I would say, you're using some commands in order to copy and paste or connect or direct a regulatory file to its specific submodule, and then you will be able to close or save that. Then you're going to convert that CTD to eCTD, and the eCTD builder is going to make that package, giving it a specific number. So for example, you can have version 0 of your eCTD, you can have version 1, version 2, depending on what you have changed and what you would like to update, and then to resubmit to the regulatory authority in the country where you are selling your drug. Now, for choosing a vendor, here, I'm not going to read the slide because I do have experience with the vendors as well. The issue is that when we are dealing with smaller companies, the cost may be more interesting. However, small companies, they may not always stay for a long time on a market. They may be also absorbed by bigger companies as well, because we are talking about business, not just technology. Unfortunately, in my opinion, regulatory authorities, they didn't want to invest in an eCTD builder that would be offered for free, and it would be just the same tool for all of the companies that could be able to use that software on the regulatory authority website. So this is an open market, and we have programmers that are going to use different configuration or requirements of the eCTD backbone, and then they just create some softwares that will make this an automated way or process to create different modules and submodules based on the ICH M4, and then to allow users to drag and drop, for example, some documents, and then to run to click on a button, and then the eCTD builder would compile the files and then give you at the end a final product. However, The issue that we have is that computer systems, they change over years. We need patches. We need to have those patches. We also have users. You may have 2 users, you may have 2,000 users, depending on how you manage this type of work. So when you're dealing with smaller companies, the risk that a smaller company is purchased by a bigger company is high. The cost may be lower, however, the level or the quality of the services may not be, because of the fact that the company is new, for example, may not be as good as the big companies. However, when you go with the bigger companies, obviously it's going to be more expensive because they're offering you more services, and they're also offering you more patches, and of course they're going to give you some different ways of pricing. Overall, when we are looking into again the eCTD software, they all do the same thing. It means that they're all looking into the requirements for the I would say the structure of the eCTD, which is already on regulatory authority websites, and then they will all do the same thing. They may be running on different servers, okay, but they're going to have maybe some different interfaces, but they're going to all import your document, your XML, with a set of folders or subfolders that we call modules and submodules, and then it will open them. Now it allows you to drag and drop different regulatory files. So this is like like File Explorer in Windows, or Finder in Apple computers. The Finder, talking about the application. And then obviously it also allows us, it's not just as simplistic as it is, it also changes some checksum numbers in your files, but still this can also be programmed and it can be done. However, it's so important that we are having a reliable eCTD software, because if not, we may lose a few days and then it's going to cost us millions of dollars. We need to invest as well. But when we are looking into choosing a vendor, some companies are going to start, I would say, smaller vendors. It's less expensive, but they may go into risk of, I would say, maybe losing some days if there's any issue. Some other companies, they go to bigger companies. They are paying much more. In both vendors, you have to pay patches, for patches. And each time that you apply patches, you have to go through a validation. And when you go through a validation of a system, it takes, I would say, a few weeks, and it's going also to cost tens of thousands of dollars each time that there's a validation. This is why it's not just vendors. We have companies in Canada as well where they hired themselves their IT people, and they made in-house eCTD softwares. So by doing this, they don't need any vendor. If they need any patches, it's readily available. If they have any issues, it's done right away. And obviously, they are also in charge of, I would say, no, they're in compliance with all of the requirements. So here, of course, I talk about the vendors. I just wanted to talk about the vendors as well, because with the vendors, you have to go through a specific process where you have to write a request for proposal. Now they're going to ask vendors to come and to give you some presentations where they just show you an up and running system. They will not tell you necessarily how long or how much it's going to cost you for the system implementation, verifications, validation, maybe calibrations, then the training, then and then of course the pricing, and mainly the configuration that takes forever. I'm not saying forever, of course, but takes a long time. So I leave it to you, but we have to keep these factors in mind when we are looking into different vendors. And obviously they are going to give you some bid. Sometimes it's a bidding system. As I already mentioned, some companies, they don't go through the external vendors. They make their own in-house eCTD builders. But if you would like to go with the external vendors, then the case is that you're going to ask them to come to present. They're going to give you a proposal, and then you're going to look into what services they offer you. Sometimes you pay a lump sum for 200 employees. Sometimes you have to pay some amount of money per month per employee who is a user of your system, for example. And you have the patches, you have the reviews, sometimes you have a system upgrade. Then they may say, look, we can upgrade, but now the patch, we cannot patch anymore. We have to do a full upgrade. Then you have to pay more. Okay, I just share with you one very interesting experience that we had is that we had I was dealing with a vendor where the vendor were asking us to pay for their sandbox. It means that they had to prepare a sandbox which is not a production area, and they had to add the software into the sandbox, configure that, and then to put that into the production or live environment. But they wanted us as well to pay for the sandbox. That I didn't accept, of course, and we went to another vendor. But what I'm saying is that you have to pay attention to what is what's the quality, what are the services that are paid, and of course how we see each other working together in the next 5 to 10 years. It's not just now, it's not just looking into, again, the best software, lowest price, because you may have patches to pay for. You may have to upgrade after 4 years, 3 to 5 years. So you have to pay attention to these. And this is, again, important when we are choosing a vendor. Because if you want to change your vendor, or again in 10 years, you may have so many documents and the structure is so complex of the database that they use that you cannot migrate all of your information from one, I would say, one software or one vendor to another vendor. So you are completely frozen, I would say. This happens as well to some companies. Okay, this is why we talk about the business, of course. Now, I'm not, of course, going to give you specific names in this presentation, even if they are written here. It's not just a few examples, but again, we have hundreds of those vendors. Now, how we look at those vendors? Okay, we of course look into their representatives. We look into what they can offer. Again, depending on which level of management we are making decisions, we may, again, managers, they are looking into the cost and what is being offered, etc. If you're having people from the IT, they're going to ask much more information, questions about the information on the implementation, etc. If you're having people from HR or QA, we are looking into compliance with the existing regulations and, of course, training of employees. So we do have several people from different departments because this is an integrated project. And then we are again now looking into what they offer. So are they offering us a document management system? Do they have any other product and services? Do we need to, again, ask them also to do the submission management, or no, we just create our eCTD and then we just go ourselves on FDA website on the electronic submission gateway and then we submit that manually? These are the different, I would say, management decisions, but these decisions, they have to be made. Now, what we also look at is if, again, our eCTD software has several services. So if it has a document management system, if it can also do publish, for example, if it can allow us to use templates, if it also allows us to do the validation of the content of a document, if we can do the regulatory tracking or audit trail, if we have or they have training programs, if they have a remote support in case the software is not working and we can't wait for someone to take a plane and come 2 days later. So we just want this to happen right away. If you're having any customization or configuration, if there is any, again, software migration systems, etc., because we may want to go from one vendor to another one. So if we would like to go to a second vendor, we'd like to know if the second vendor can allow us or help us to migrate the documents from the previous or old system into the new system. As I told you, it's very challenging, and many companies, they don't do that. Okay, but again, this is a market as well. And then it allows us also to manage the biological drug master files. And of course, there are some other services such as CDisk, which is for the data sets. And if it can also allow us to look into our eCTD package like FDA could see. This is why we talk about exclusive provider of eCTD eViewer software to FDA. So again, it's a good marketing of course, point as well. So now, same thing for others. So you can look into another document. We're going to say, okay, what we need. Do we need this to, for example, do data analysis? Maybe does it do any SAS programming, even if nowadays we use much more SPSS because it needs less, I would say, less scripting. And don't forget that with AI or artificial intelligence, we are going to see definitely much more AI functions and AI agents that are coming into the field of regulatory affairs as well, for data analysis, for even programming as well, if we need, for writing scripts as well, but also for reviewing the consistency of any type of reports that we write. So it is coming, it's already there, of course, but we're going to see more and more of AI services as well in these softwares. This is again another example. So I'm going to let you, of course, to read the content. Very similar and sometimes identical for the functions with other, softwares as well. And again, here we see that if you want to compare these, for example, this software with the previous one that I showed you, it doesn't have a few of the services. Now, do we need them or not? It will depend on, again, the services that you need, because you have to pay for services. And don't forget that we always have some, I would say, some strategies for financing in our business as well. So if we don't need a service, obviously we don't take that service. Now, in some vendors, no, the package comes as is, and you're going to pay more because you're having a package where you have several services that you don't really need. So again, this is another factor. Now you may look into whether or not it's affordable. If it's a business, I would say, based on the business, it's acceptable to even pay more. But having a specific software because you like the touch and feel or the look and feel, and you like the services and the way it's fast enough, it's safe enough, secure enough, etc. In this case, again, this is a management decision to decide whether or not to go with a software with maybe a bigger package where you may not need all of the services, but you still have the quality that you need. And another software, of course, same thing here. It's very similar to the others as well. And then here, as we see, the software does not have, again, the same or similar services as the two previous softwares. So again, coming back to what I was talking with you about, we have to look into different proposals. We need to look into different software companies that are coming and presenting us their again, products. And don't forget that at any given time, you can consider having a few IT people who are going to create an eCTD builder, which is an in-house eCTD builder running on the servers of the company. It makes that even safer. It also makes that easier to handle. If there is any issue, you can easily ask your programmers to, or IT people to correct the situation, and it may cost you much less. Okay, you may have 4 or 5 IT people at $600,000-700,000 per year, for example, but maybe a system like this may cost you $400,000 or $500,000 minimum per year, in addition to patches, trainings, upgrades, I would say repairs as well. Again, this is just again, my aim is not to tell you exactly what to do. I'm just going over different types of experience I had when I was working with those vendors, working in the regulatory affairs department within a pharmaceutical company, because as I already mentioned, the EDMS, or electronic document management system, is not just for RA. It's also for clinical research department. It's also for pharmacovigilance department. Now, some companies may say, no, I don't want pharmacovigilance database to be in EDMS. I want this to be in a database. So they may have AERS system, adverse events reporting system, or they may have ARIS system, ARIS. So other systems for pharmacovigilance. So each company has its own view based on the needs of services, based on, again, the type of management, the type of vision that they have, and obviously the type of talents or knowledge that they have hired, so that those people are going to look into the best solutions for the company. This is why, again, the best thing for you is just to look into several companies, also thinking about that you may also have your own company, having your own eCTD builder as well, or you can also start, continue with the smaller companies as well, and then to migrate to a bigger company if you need at the beginning, you have a smaller company and you would like to make more money, being able to invest more. So same thing applies to, again, to comparison. So here you have the comparison of those three softwares. That's what we do. We look at the proposals, we look into different tables, and then the high management is going to decide whether or not we are going to go with one of the solutions. And again, as I told you, we have hundreds of those different softwares that exist. Let's go over the electronic submission gateway submissions. So here we do have an electronic submission gateway which is maintained by FDA, where all of the submissions are being made on again that portal. So if it's for medical devices, if this is for adverse drug reactions, if this is for drug master files, for new drug submissions, applications, for of course for new drug submission as well, because Health Canada also we use that electronic submission gateway that go through the FDA, but this is for companies that are applying for a new drug submission, so putting their drug in the Canadian market. Obviously, this is also going to change, but for now, this is the way that Canada is using this portal as well. So here, you also have some softwares, eCTD softwares that are connected directly to the electronic submission gateway. If not, it can be done manually. We just have to subscribe, and then you have some training. Then we do a test. We send a test eCTD, and once we pass the test, then we'll be able now to continue to submit our eCTDs through the electronic submission gateway maintained by FDA. So here, again, I already talked to you about the fact that those softwares, okay, for eCTD submissions, they need the following, for example. They need to have a transmit AS2 submission. Okay, it's just a protocol, and we need to have that. So I will not go too much into details, but this is, again, a way that, that portal is functioning. Then it also has to validate a submission signature. So when you upload your eCTD, obviously, since you're already logged in to the electronic submission gateway, it will also attach now, I would say, or connect your identity or your signature into your submission. This is what happens. And then it will, in number 3, it will now give you an electronic receipt. And then it will now unpackage the submission. It means that it's going to read the XML, which is the index of the documents, and then it's going now to populate or to send different documents that you have in different submodules into scientific reviewers. Of course, it doesn't happen right away. Don't forget that when you are applying for the review of your new drug application, it takes up to from 10 months to maybe 1.5. So it takes time. So it doesn't happen instantly. Usually you send your submission, and then it has to be reviewed. It has to be checked so that it is working. So we will tell you, okay, we acknowledge that this is again working, and then once it is acknowledged, then it will start being reviewed by scientific reviewers. So here, for the remaining of these, of course, the content in this slide, this is very technical. I'm not going into details, because at the end of the day, all you need is that we have to go to the electronic submission gateway. You need to be subscribed. You need to have some training, very simple training, and then you have to be able to upload your eCTD structure, which is also having the index.xml file as well as other modules, module 1 to 5 and a DTD folder, and then it's going to give you some electronic receipt, and then it's going to process with the next steps involved in starting the review process for your new drug application. So in summary, we talk about the eCTD, and again, we know that it takes time. It's a labor and resource intensive. It takes time for the preparation, for the review, quality control, and submission, and of course waiting, because when you are having your eCTD being reviewed, the submission being reviewed, you may, of course, you're going to receive some requirements for information from FDA, from Health Canada, from EMA, depending on in which of these areas, for example, you are applying for the registration of your drug, or in other countries, because as you know, we have many countries that are using the eCTD backbone, and they have their own regulatory authorities, they have their own electronic submission gateway, I would say kind of web portal as well, but they're all again having the same challenges as well. Now, what else? The number of commercially available electronic tools are essential, of course, but again, you can always look into building that in-house, if not buying an external, I would say, software, okay? And then having quality in the forefront of the mindset of all authors, reviewers, publishers, etc. will help ease the pain of resolving validation errors prior to submission to electronic submission gateway. So it's not a pain, it's a challenge, okay? You're dealing with tens of thousands of pages of documents coming from so many different I would say sources. It's obvious that it is challenging, but look, this is what's happening, and this is an investment in people, in technology, in training, and obviously in producing best drugs that we are going to offer to the market in order to safeguard the well-being of the population. So again, for the other summary, as I already told you, I would say that you should use a well-documented request for proposals if you're looking into buying, again, those softwares from a vendor. The best practice is to ask vendors to come in to conduct a bid defense, so they are representing or presenting their software as well. Now, as I already mentioned, we are going to see more and more of the I would say of countries and more applications that are going to use the eCTD backbone. Here we have, of course, the references for your presentation, and I would like to thank you so much for joining me for today's lecture. Be all well. Thank you.